Do you want to be one of the few who knows what it's like to be behind the eyes of a train? Well, it's very easy to do in Blender. I'll show you right now. You want to first create the tunnel part. So just get like the default cube or something. Or inset outside two faces of the tunnel. Like this is going to be a section of it. Just delete that so it makes a hole in the middle. Once there's a hole in the middle, you can select the outside edges, and then you can bridge edge loops, and it'll make a flat surface for the inside of the tunnel, because you want an outside and inside, so you can model it a little bit. And then you don't really have to do anything with the bottom because you won't see it too much. These things, I just kind of flatten them. Now take the top two edges that are going lengthwise in the tunnel, and then just press Control B to bevel them a little bit, and then do the inside two edges also, bevel those a little bit. So now it's more of a rounder shape. You're getting somewhere now. Now for the actual tunnel part, where it starts to look like it's actually taking form. Put a curve in. Make sure you do not scale up the curve. It's got to be a Bezier curve too. That works best. Do not scale the curve. Use extrude or G to grab the sections of the curve and move them around, and then you can scale the individual sections but not the entire curve itself, like the individual vertices. You can scale those. Do not scale the whole curve. Now just make the shape of the tunnel, the path you want the tunnel to go along, and also the camera. And then once you're done with that, you go back to the tunnel object. Under the tunnel object, go to the modifiers tab and create an array. Make sure that it's offset in the right direction, whichever axis direction. If you use 1 as the integer for the offset, it'll make sure there's no gaps in the tunnel. So as you can see here, there's gaps. If you just set it to 1, there's no gaps. And then make as many copies as you need using the count. After the array, you want to make the curve, put a curve modifier on the tunnel, and then use the Bezier curve as the object. Make sure that the offset for the tunnel object in the array modifier works with whichever direction the curve is going. You can just modify that until it works. Alright, this is kind of a skip ahead, but I'll explain it. You want to put a empty at the very beginning of the tunnel. Now, you want to add a, under the constraints, you want to add a follow paths modifier to the empty. So it'll follow the path of the Bezier curve just like the tunnel. You can see here it's following the Bezier curve path. Now, if you scroll along it, it'll go with the path. You also want to put on the follow curve. You want to check follow curve on it so it's facing the correct direction. Once you put the empty at the beginning, you have to also move the empty to the front after you have put the follow paths modifier on. So put the follow paths constraint on, and then move the empty to the front where it needs to start. Then add the camera and parent the camera to the empty, and make sure it's the empty is following the curve correctly. And then it should look like this, and it should be going down the tunnel and facing the correct direction when you use the follow curve constraint. Now, if you want the train lights, the headlights, spotlight type things to work, all you got to do is do the exact same thing you did with the camera, and make 2 spotlights, and then put them where the camera is, a little bit behind the camera, and then have them facing the same direction as the camera, and then parent them to the empty, so that they will fall in line with the empty and the camera, and they'll all be synchronized, and it'll look like this. The way I got the final look was using a volume shader to make fog. I used the same process to make the tunnel I did for those lights on the side to give it a little bit more interesting lighting. And then the spotlights, you can play around them, make them a little bit larger so it doesn't look as like crappy. And that's about it.